Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm with Underthebridge Flies, and we're going to tie a prince nymph today. Actual purple prince. A guy wanting to know how to tie these, and so I told him I'd do a video real quick. So here's the video, and we're going to do these a little bit different today. Actually, I'm going to use the ones I posted a couple days ago was black tail, white wing, and black hackle around it, and today we're going to do one like this. It's red hackle, red wing, and white tail. This is one I just tied for a video I just did, and of course the video didn't turn out too good, so we're going to start over. Anyway, I got a Daiichi 1710 size 14. Normally I use 16, 18s, 20s in this, but I'm tying this on a 14 because it's a lot easier for you to see on the camera and stuff. So that's about the only reason I'm doing it this way. But anyway, so what we got is I got purple thread, and I'm using 8/0. If you're new to tying and everything, I suggest you use 6/0 or 140 UTC. I like the 8/0, and I like the 8/0 and the 70 UTC myself, but like I said, I mean, it's all preference. I started with 8/0, and that's why I like using it. I can tie some pretty big flies with 8/0 thread, so it's just I learned how to do it that way. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and start our thread behind the eye, behind the bead there, and run it to the back. When you get to the back, what you want to do is build you up a little bump here, and just, wrap the thread over the top of it, a couple times, and just like that, and then move your thread about center of the hook. We're using Goose Bites, and I've got the Wapsi and Fish Hunter Goose Bites that I'm using. And we're just going to take a couple of these bites, and you want to size your bites. I mean, you don't want nothing really, really thick. It's just especially on a 16 or 18 hook. If you're using 16s or 18s, you don't want a real thick goose bite, because then you're going to have a bunch of it folding over, and it's just not going to look very well. So, and you don't want a real tiny one as well, because you want your bite to, basically represent the size of the hook that you're putting it on. So anyway, I'm going to go through and look for a couple that I like, and once I get to that section, I will just peel a couple of these off. And you always want to take two that's next to each other if possible, because they're going to be, about the same size. And what I do is I'm just going to lay one down beside, and the way I size these is I usually just, about a hook shank, and then I take and I put that in there, grab a hold of it, and just wrap one loose, two loose, and then just kind of tighten it up a little bit and hold that in place. And I can adjust it, as I need to be, but no sense in doing that until you get your second one on. Now, if you guys take these and put them on at the same time and everything, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if that's how you do it, that's, good, but I like doing it single. I think personally, I get a better, I can line them up a lot better. I can even them out, and so, I can really get these things about perfect. But, I don't know if the fish give a crap about perfect like that, but I know customers do, so I try to tie a good fly. And so we're going to move this thread up, about a little over halfway, and then just go ahead and bring it back and let it hang there. Trim off your extra off your bites there. And all right, next thing we're going to use, and you can see, I mean, how splayed those are. I mean, you got a nice curve to them. That's another thing you want to look at your bites. I mean, it's easy to get bites that, have, I don't know what kind of insect they are, but they got holes in them and stuff like that. There's not much curve to them, but we really want to get, bites that we can, really get to curve real nice and everything. So when you put these on, always put your curve out, and you get a really nice, really nice looking tail there. So next thing we're going to do is put in some UTC. This is small red, and I like small, and BR is my main choices as far as wire goes. Now I'm going to cut this, and when I do, you see I'm taking it all the way up into my scissors, because you don't want to use the end of your scissors for any cuts. All that's going to do is dull your scissors, and you won't be able to cut your hackles and, you know, make the little snips like on those bites that I just did and stuff. So, and if you have a little bite hanging out there, it doesn't matter. Now when you work your way back with this thread, just be very careful and go right up to those bites. Don't try not to disturb those bites at all, because I mean, those are perfect right there, and we don't want them to move on us. So next thing we're using is a hairline. This is purple dubbing. Now ice dubbing or crystal dubbing, you know, there's Antron from Wapsi. There's just a ton of dubbing out there, and you can use whatever you want on these. Great part about this fly, it's very versatile. You can make it in any color that you want to. If you think the fish is going to eat it, make it. Now when I get my dubbing out, you see I'm, you know, getting it in a, you know, kind of stretch it out there, and I just lick the tip of my finger just a little bit. Just you can use wax. I mean, I got wax, I just never use it. I just in the habit of just, you know, licking my fingers a little bit and putting it on there. And as you can see, I'm just building a small, you know, and you know, it's just, as you can see, hopefully, you know, from the thread to the dubbing, it's not a whole much difference on that, you know. And you want to wind it fairly tight and push it up right underneath there. And then when you put your first wrap on there, now you can always pull back on it, wind it some more, you know. Less is better when you're working with dubbing for anybody that's new to tying. Don't glob a whole bunch of dubbing on there and expect a good fly to come out of it, because it just don't work that way. Trust me, I learned the hard way. Some of my the beginning of my fly tying experience, this is, like, you know, like I'd be put that on and just roll it right on there, and might have flies this big around, and it's just, I could not believe that a fish as big as we catch around here in Wyoming especially would take such a tiny little bug, especially, you know, like those ones I've seen in New Mexico and Utah. Them guys are using 30s and, you know, 28s, and I just can't believe a fish would actually eat that, you know, but I learned. So now when you get to the head, as you can see, I'm pulling it towards, see how I'm got my thread up this way, and the reason I'm doing that, and I'm kind of tugging on it, you know, every now and again, is because that is actually filling his head up and getting it really good and tight on there. So you don't have to do that with string. You can do it with a little bit of dubbing while you're doing this. And then we're going to take a little more, and normally, you know, you're going to have to do this 2 or 3 times. I mean, you know, don't try to do it all at once, because, you know, it's much better doing it in sections. And another thing is, when you're putting this on like this, what you're doing is you're putting a base of thread over the top of your last row of dubbing, and that's just making a better fly, you know, because it's really, you know, pulling it all together, and, you know, your fly's not going to come apart as quickly if, you know, you got that all that thread holding it in place. And we're going to just continue that around, and once I get to the front, I usually just, you know, throw some wraps around that just to help fill in. Now, as far as wire is concerned, what we do, I always go opposite of whatever I'm putting on. It doesn't matter if it's dubbing, feathers, or whatever. General rule for me is to go opposite of whatever I just tied in, and that just seals it the deal. I mean, it just ties that all in a lot better, makes a ton of a better fly for this thing. So, and once you get that all tied in, you know, kind of, you see I'm pulling on that pretty good. If you're using an 8/0 thread, be very careful with that, because it's going to break. It's going to break. And you see I just helicoptered that wire off. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, I've learned over the last month or so that I've had a couple of customers tell me that a couple of my flies come apart, you know, and without catching fish, and we don't want that. So what I'm doing is I got a little Zap-A-Gap there, and I'm just putting it right on there right now. So that's just going to seal the bottom layer, so we don't have to worry about it coming apart. And then we are going to take and find us a Hackle feather, and my light keeps moving on me, so that's usually my magnifying glass light, you know, but I usually have it down here so I can see these things. So I'm kind of doing this one blind, but can't really see it all that great, but hopefully it's looking as good as we're wanting it. So we got our goose bites, and we're using red goose bites on this, like I said. And you know, as you can see how thick that goose bite is right there, you don't want to use that for your wing. I mean, this is for, you know, if you're using big stone flies or something, use that bite for that, you know. And then of course you got, you know, down here these little bitty teeny bites, you know, and you know, those might work all right here, you know. I mean, you just kind of measure it out and get one, you know, you can just set them on there and see what they look like, and that's what you want to do. You want to get one that you think is going to look really good for your wing. Again, look at your goose bites. Always take the two next to each other and check them out. Make sure there ain't a bunch of holes or, you know, stuff like that in there. Make sure the tips are nice and pointy. You know, there's just inspect your materials before you put them on. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure the fish ain't going to give a crap, but it depends on, you know, if you're production tying and trying to get it done really quick, you know, or whatever. But if you're trying to tie a nice fly, you know, just inspect your materials a little bit. Here's what I do with my goose bites on red. I put them together, and you see I'm making an X there. And we can adjust that X any way we want to once we set it up there. And I like to have my bites run just a little teeny bit past the purple dubbing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these on top, and once I get them about where I want them, I'm just going to grab them with my thumb there, and I'm going to make a couple of easy wraps right over the top of that. That way I can look at this thing and say, all right, well, you know, we can slide them this way, that way, whatever, to get them even. You know, you can move these around quite easily. If you need to spread them out, you can spread them out some. I mean, just, you know, there's not much you can't do at this point. So then we're just going to start, you know, put a couple tighten on there, and then you see how those closed up on me there. So it's not that big a deal because we can still, you know, move these around. And then once we get it tightened up to where we want it, which I just lost the entire thing, so I got them on top of each, stacked on each other, so I can't separate the doggone things here. But give me a second and we will separate. There we go. See, like I said, you can really manipulate these right now, and you can pull them if they're not exactly where you want them. I mean, so you want to make sure they're getting lined up. I mean, look really nice. Now, I got these about where I want them here. So what I'm going to do next is I don't want these things to move on me as I'm tying the rest of this fly. So we're just going to put those up on there a little bit, make sure they're nice and even with the tail. And then again, we're just going to take a little bit of Zap-A-Gap here, and we're just going to drop just a hair right down the middle of that, or just put it right there on your string, however you want to do it. And then just go ahead and wrap that, you know, fairly easy. You don't have to tighten it down any, you know, and you can see that, you know, we just glued that in is all we did. So now we know that these bites are going to stay right where we wanted them, and we can just continue to build us a little base right on top of that, and you see what I'm saying. So that way we got a place for our hackle to set on as well, because you want a nice little even platform there, I guess is what I'm saying, for your hackle. And then just go ahead and trim that off as close as you can get it, and you can always go in behind it and force those up to where they will bend over eventually, and get those out of your way if you want to be real particular, or just leave it there. It doesn't really matter that much. But anyway, so next thing I'm going to do is I got some, excuse me, Whiting Farms. This is red grizzly hackle. I get all my hackle from usually, well, not all of it, but most of my hackle I get from the Feather Emporium, because you can buy, you know, these little necks. I know that they're like $5 for tying 18s and 20s and stuff like that, and they're $5 and it's free shipping. Everything's free shipping, so I really like free shipping. If I see a good deal on eBay or something, I'll get them from there. Or, you know, sometimes I get them. People don't want to tie no more, and they got some laying around, so they like to trade me. And as you can see, I just put some more Zap-A-Gap on there, and that's just going to hold that feather in place for me while I wrap it. Now, you can use hackle pliers if you got a shorter section. I got a pretty long section here, so all I'm going to do is take that hackle, and we're just going to line it straight across there. And you want to keep the hackle, you know, pointing sideways. I mean, you want the color up front, you know, the front of the hackle, you want it facing towards the front of the fly. That way all that, you know, is pointed backwards. And then we're just going to take and wrap a nice little loose wrap kind of right there, not too tight. And then we're going to just do that again. And then one more time, just to make sure that she don't go nowhere on us. And then we just take our, now, one of the biggest things, man, when you go to cut this hackle off, you know, I mean, take and get your thread out of the way when you're doing that, you know, separate your thread. And you see how I'm putting my finger up in the center of this like that. Separate that, and that way you can only cut just the hackle. Don't try to just, you know, sit there and eyeball it and get in there, because, well, you might be that good, but I'm not, because I cut my doggone thread most of the time. So next thing is real simple. Well, it ain't simple. This is one of the hardest things for people to learn, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it's the whip finish. And, you know, you just lay your whip finish right on top of there, grab it with this hook, and then pull it around, and then let your whip finish, you know, go right around it. Real simple. 1, 2, and 3. And then what we're going to do is just pull that up in there. Give it a little tug. Now, next thing I'm going to do, yep, I'm Zap-A-Gapping again before I put my final one on. And I'm just going to put a little dot of Zap-A-Gap right on top there. And we're going to throw another 3 whip finish around that. Well, that Zap-A-Gap's still wet. Now, bang. Now we got Zap-A-Gap after the dubbing and the wire. We got Zap-A-Gap after the wings, and we got Zap-A-Gap on the finish. So this fly should be good for 20-30 fish. Probably won't be, but anyway, that's the fly. This is just a variation of a purple prince. It's not that hard of a tie. The goose bites take a little while to get used to. You know, the smaller you go, of course, the more difficult it is, but try it on some 12s and then some 14s and then some 16s. And, you know, but one guy I know, he's learned how to tie flies. He ties one fly and then he goes to the next one. You know, he's just not getting it down though that way. You know, grab you some 12s and tie you up, you know, 6 of those in 12s, because you'll still be able to fish those 12s. You know, once you get those down real good, go to 14s, and then go to 16s. I mean, don't just tie one fly and say, huh, okay, I know what I did wrong now. I'm going to go to this fly. It doesn't work that way. You need to practice each fly, and, you know, the more you tie it, the better you get at it. So, you know, try to concentrate on tying one fly at a time, get it good, get it nice, you know, the way that you want it, and then move on to the next fly. I mean, you'll get a lot better, a lot quicker that way. Anyway, hope you enjoy my videos. I appreciate y'all watching them. I forgot to snip that little stem off there. There we go. All right, well, anyway, I hope you like my videos. I hope you continue to watch them. I appreciate y'all buying my flies, and I appreciate y'all following me here. So anyway, we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.